guys, welcome to episode 3 of Highballs with Heaton, with my good friend Andrew Heaton, who is the host of Blaze Podcast Media. I don't even know what we call it anymore. Something's off with Andrew Heaton.
That's the name of mine.
Welcome once again to Studio 22. Here we are. I'm going to do a new show with Party Foul Steve, where we're not going to drink, we're going to smoke cigars. It's going to be called Fags with Foul. There you go. Might use cigarettes every now and then. I don't know.
I'm not smoking cigarettes.
You don't smoke a fag?
No.
Okay.
When I lived in Scotland, this was one of a couple of things that threw me off.
Yeah.
Because they if you're in Scotland, like where you and I are now in Texas, pissed and pissed off mean the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I first moved to Scotland, they'd say things like, well, I should back up. Pissed means drunk in Scottish. Pissed off means angry.
Pissed. Yeah.
I'm pissed means drunk. I didn't know that. So the Scots are like, oh, last night I got so pissed I shot myself and black out. And I'd be like, oh, my God, these people are crazy. I've never been that angry in my life, but I've lost bowel control through anger. And then the fag one, because I didn't know that. The fag is a nickname for cigarettes. It's a pejorative where I'm from. So they go, hey, Gatsby, hold my drink. I'm going to nip out back for a fag. And I'd go, I'm just going to hold my drink and be quietly heterosexual. You do whatever you need to do. I'm a visitor in your country.
If you've never had a fag in a back alley, you really should go to Scotland. Let me tell you, that's the best place you can get a fag in a back alley. Or under a bridge, whatever. $20 is $20.
So you take
Fags
the back,
are expensive.
Their
door?
tobacco prices are very high. Yes,
Yeah.
You got to go through the back door to get there?
Yeah. So Party Foul Steve's sitting over in the peanut gallery. Of course, Jennings is sitting over there petting him affectionately, making sure that he stays just quite mulletized right there. There's certain words that I love, but usually they come out of me whenever I'm drinking whiskey. That's why I love this show, Highballs with Heaton. And today's featured whiskey on Highballs with Heaton is Fort Worth, Texas' own TX whiskey. Not Texas whiskey. It is not endorsed by Rick Perry, Greg Abbott, or the state of Texas. TX whiskey. 5 whiskeys in this bottle, not a single one less than 5 years old. It is America's first premium blended whiskey, which means there's only whiskey in the bottle. Get you some soon and become our sponsor, because Highballs with Heaton, let me tell you something. We can make highballs with any whiskey that's out there if they just give us money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll come back for whiskey and money.
I know. But you know what? I'm a fan of the whiskey. Are you a fan of the whiskey?
Oh, I'm very much so. Yeah, I'm a big Scotch enthusiast. I've got a square foot of land on the Isle of Islay in Scotland, and I would like to eventually become a brand ambassador.
Don't you go, when you go to Scotland, do you like set up a little altar on your square foot of land? Do you like set up a little?
I went there I've got an adopted aunt and uncle because I had a host family. And so Arthur and Gusha, when I called him, I was like, I'm going to be back in your neck of the woods, and I've got the square foot of land. And Arthur went, we'll go there. I've got a car. We'll take a ferry. And we went down there, and he built me this Lego castle. So I had my own Lego castle. So what I did was I put that up, and then I kicked over a flag of Russia because everybody's got a different flag for their spot. So I felt I was representing America and my feudal dynasty.
Did you play Dungeons and Dragons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You really kind of have that vibe.
I know. Mike, can I tell you what a dork I was in high school? Because
by all means.
I think the first time I came on your show, and I do genuinely feel this way. I described you to one of our coworkers the other day. I went, when I hang out with Chad, I feel like I'm hanging out with a cool guy at high school, and he's decided to come hang out with me.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we're walking like at weightlifting class, and you're in the.
I showed up to
the football
count
coach.
how many dub bars there are, or whatever.
Yeah,
and
the football coach just called you a snot bubble. And, and the whole thing.
And you come over and you're like, hey man, come sit and have lunch with us, and it's cool. I like that about you.
Yeah.
We're slowly leading him towards the bathroom swirly.
No, I would never. I am not a bully.
Steve.
I am anti-bully 100%. Although I am pro-fag. Jennings.
Yo.
I love you, my friend.
I love you too, Chad.
I love you, and I'm glad you're sitting in here.
I'd like to note, by the way, to Heaton's point earlier, a fairy in Scotland is a homosexual.
Oh. That's true. Well, I'll be in Ireland.
So they were taking a ferry over to the Isle of Islay.
I'm going to spend June this year in Ireland because I just need to go that far away to get away from all you fools. And I love Ireland. I love Scotland. Actually.
They're both great. I'll say Ireland's a tad more friendly.
It's very friendly.
Because the Scots are lovely, but they seem homicidal.
Yeah.
Like when you meet them, because you're like, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm fine. I'd like to introduce you to some mates of mine. Come with me. And you're like, I'm going to get stabbed. And it turns out they just give you drinks. They're nice. The Irish are like much more they're much more gregarious when you meet them.
The Scottish are very Gerard Butlerian in 300. You know what I mean? Yes. They're like really Sparta.
Yes. Spartan plus
Sparta. Yeah. You don't. I always want to go into Barrio Mexican whenever I try to do a Scottish accent. That's why I admire you so much.
Thank you.
But you know what? Immigrants go to Scotland too. Screw them. Don't you look at my woman, man. Don't you? Why are you looking at my queen?
You're nailing a Glaswegian accent so hard right now. I was like, that guy's straight out of Glasgow.
My name is Macduff.
Yeah.
Don't you understand?
Hey, man, why you looking at my honey, girl? You want me to run over you with my Chevy? I think they talk just like that in Glasgow.
It's like I'm in Dundee all over again.
Do you feel it?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
Let's take it to the head.
To the head, okay.
Let's go to the head. Let's see what the topic of the day is on Highballs with Heaton. We don't know what it is. This is a head full of topics, and here we go.
Do you have a right to online privacy?
Do you have a right to online privacy? I think, well, it depends. What are we doing online?
See, I'm divided on this one because
I think I am too.
On the one hand, like, I like privacy, and I want you to have it. But on the other hand, if I build a platform, it's my platform, right? So if I build Chadbook, which is a platform based on discussing Chad Prather and sharing Chad Prather photos, I own that platform. I made it. If you wanted to go do your own thing, you should have. But here on Chadbook, I control the Chad media, right?
He really does have this, by the way.
This is just me mentioning that everybody should go to chadbook.com.
Chadbook.com.
Log in. I'm gonna go ahead and buy if I sober up in time.
Give us your debit and credit card.
Yeah,
right there.
So it's like I have mixed feelings on this because on the one hand, I don't want. If you are running something yourself, if you came up with an idea and you want to do it, I feel very, very strongly about free enterprise and the idea that you should be able to associate and run your business as you see fit. I don't think that Facebook should be a utility or anything like that. Like that's their thing. And to the point where if Facebook or Twitter wants to kick off people like me, it's a private platform. They're at liberty to do that. At the same time, though, like we're kind of getting into this weird part of the 21st century where, like, I do feel like I'm being creeped on by a bunch of different places. So I don't know. But right now, I'm leaning more towards the I don't care, to be honest with you.
Do you have an Alexa or anything like that in your home, or like a Google Play or one of those?
Yeah, I got an Alexa.
Devices that you talk to.
Yeah,
that you have to feel a little bit nervous about.
Not only do I feel nervous, I have become aware of what a horrible human being I am. Because you watch these old not sitcoms. You watch these old dramas where like there's people in a mansion and their butler comes in and they're like, you fool, Matthews, you shouldn't have brought me brandy this time. You're like, why would you do that? I never do that with people at Starbucks. And then you get Alexa and you're like, no, I didn't say that Electric Light Orchestra song, you idiot. And I'm just so mean to this robot. And I had no idea how mean I was when there was no actual, when there's not a response, I'm really mean.
Yeah, I know. When I say Neil Diamond and all of a sudden I hear an onslaught of ABBA going, here I go again.
Yeah. I wanted Blue Jeans. What's the song I'm thinking of?
Forever in Blue Jeans.
Forever in Blue Jeans. Yeah. Sweet Caroline. You were doing that at karaoke the other day.
I was doing that the other day in an Elvis concert.
Dressed as Elvis.
I am a big fan of karaoke, and we were doing that the other day.
Yeah, we should do karaoke.
I would love to do that. Let's do it. I bet there's a good place in Fort Worth
America today.
Are you baritone or tenor?
I'm not a tenor. I'm a little more baritone than that. I'm a little more. We'll just kind of find it as we go. But if I do Patience and I'm in good voice from Guns N' Roses, I can get there.
I can hit My Maria in the car by Brooks and Dunn, but I can't do it in the karaoke studio.
I'm surprised that you know some Brooks and Dunn.
I like Brooks and Dunn.
Oh yeah.
I love bluegrass. I love bluegrass.
I didn't like Brooks and Dunn until I went to a Brooks and Dunn concert. Yeah. That was years ago.
My Maria is a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I like bluegrass too.
And I like Garth Brooks to some extent. I don't like. I'm definitely more bluegrass than country.
Yeah.
Like I think bluegrass is the greatest American.
Well, it is a genre. It is. It is one. It's something that's purely American.
Yeah, and it is, and it's this great mix of different things too, right? Because it's like Appalachia, Scotch Irish with like African. There's all sorts of cool stuff that goes into it.
Don't you be Africanizing my bluegrass now.
Where do you think the banjo comes from, Chad?
Well, you're
Comes from
right.
Chad.
It is. It comes from Chad. It comes from that Muslim country.
Yeah.
But you're right. No, it is. And God bless bluegrass music, and I appreciate the resurgence that it's had in recent years.
I think when I die, I hope that Earl Scruggs and the Archangels escort me to Valhalla.
Yeah.
That is how I see this concluding.
I had a friend of mine who was from the Holler in Kentucky. There's a lot of hollers in Kentucky, by the way, and he's a very well-known bluegrass musician. He was playing for Bill Monroe, who is the father of bluegrass music. And it was his first trip out of Kentucky down into Nashville, Tennessee. He was staying at a hotel that he thought was fascinating because he'd never been out of the Holler. And so he went down into the lobby with his little Instamatic camera, and he took a picture of the clock that was in the middle of the hotel lobby. And guess what? Back behind that clock, driving down the street, was a picture that he took of his future wife that he would marry. 10 years later.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that is crazy.
Bluegrass music, people.
Bluegrass music.
It is supernatural. It is African supernatural.
Can I tell you a weird revelation I had with bluegrass? And then I'll try and get back to online privacy. But I do have a much better epiphany about bluegrass. Because when I lived in New York, I was a regular at the Bluegrass Night in Astoria. You would not think that New York City would be a bluegrass hotbed, but actually it is. There's a couple of really good bluegrass nights there. And I would go to the Astoria one. And I was there one night. I was the only person that, because it's a jam, so I was the only person that didn't play an instrument or was married to someone that was playing bluegrass music. And I had this thought, the Beatles, when they were in Hamburg, right? No one knew who they were. They early on, the Beatles were hanging out in Hamburg. And I thought if there was some alternate universe where the Beatles never left Hamburg and I could go watch them, I'd be like, this is amazing. I'm seeing the Beatles, like right here, right now. And people would be like, you mean the four old guys that play in their basement? And it made me go, what cool things am I not appreciating in my life here? And watching this bluegrass, I was like, there's a couple people here who I think are world-class performers that just didn't get their due. And I think there's a lot more of that than people realize.
There is that element to it. And then you wind up looking at things and you're going, you know what? There are things that I've been sheltered to my entire life. There are things that I haven't been exposed to. I mean, Ricky Skaggs, he can play any instrument on the planet that has strings on it. And he's a bluegrass musician. Country people know him as a country singer, but he's a player. He's a bluegrass player. So the things that are out there that we don't know about, if there was true online privacy, how many things would we not know about? I think if you make the choice to get online, now I'm not talking about your business dealings or your debit card numbers, but I'm saying if you want to make your stuff public, then it should be public. I think I have not had a social media page that has been in any way privatized in over 5 years. So you take my friend Kenny Thacker, who took a picture unknowingly of his wife 10 years later, Lynn, who became Lynn Thacker. Even she didn't have privacy from an Instamatic camera because she chose to show up in public. So I think that your online presence should be just as public as your public appearance out in civilization in general.
I think we're moving there. I think we're definitely moving there in that a lot of the things that I would now consider incredibly private, or I'm sorry, that my grandparents or parents would have considered private, I'm pretty public about. And I wonder if we're moving to a point in our society where privacy is kind of an outdated notion. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I think we might be moving there all the same. And so the idea might be that we move towards a position where, like, everybody just, if you want to look up what kind of porn you like, it's out there. Yeah. But at the same time, you're not stigmatized for it.
You ever looked at porn and wondered, like...
Never, not once. But I read about it.
You ever looked at Pornhub.com and thought, now, who's going to retweet this? Like, who's going to leave a comment? Because you have those options to do those things. Like, you can go onto any one of these porn sites and be like, I'm going to retweet what I'm watching today.
One of my friends...
Or I'm going to leave a review.
One of my friends, he's a stand-up comedian. If he does a meeting at his company, he will throw out names of porn actors in the meeting just to see if anybody picks up. So he'll say like
Ryan Driller, my buddy Ryan Driller. There you go.
He'll like, no, I've been working really hard on I've been working hard on this file with Jenna Jameson, and we're gonna get the briefing really soon. And he'll say like, someone will go, hey, I look forward to that case.
Can I also say who's coming on the podcast very, very soon in upcoming weeks on the Chad Prather Show? Yes, Jenna Jameson.
Oh, really?
We'll send her over to Something's Off with Andrew Heaton.
We'll talk about
I'm flying her in.
Yeah.
I'm flying her in. We're totes doing highballs with Jenna. Woo! No one? Okay, just me. Anyway, so, no, I agree with you on that. I think more and more. Steve had something he had to say. Steve?
I did today earlier. I looked up Jenna Jameson and Ron Jeremy. I was trying to figure out if they ever did a flick together.
Ron Jeremy and Jenna Jameson?
Yeah,
you were trying to see?
I'm still not sure, though.
You weren't going to retweet it, though.
No,
you didn't want your mom to see that.
Because I was looking up some history,
It's party time, Mom.
Can I ask you a question before we top off?
No, by all means.
There was a proposal I read a couple of years ago that I thought was interesting, which was that everybody should be allowed to either dump their internet history at 18 or change their name at 18. And I kind of like, I kind of think we should have a culture where it's this odd thing right now where if you did something 32 years ago that was a bad idea now that at the time wasn't, you can really be raked over the coals. And I wonder if we shouldn't have either an age limit or a statute of limitations on stuff that may not be appropriate, to where if you like, I feel so bad for kids that went through high school that were the first generation with Facebook. I had Facebook in college and I didn't have to go through that. I feel really sorry for them. Like, I kind of want to give them a pass if they said stupid stuff when they're 17 and a half. It's out there, but I want to let them go.
Well, that's the beauty of it. I'm older than you, so I didn't have the internet in college, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
We can start that at 40. Anything, let's.
Being 35, I'm 100% in favor of that.
So I had a bunny. We used to pack people in the hatchback. Like, we'd have so many guys. When I was 16, 17, 18 years old, we had so many guys in the car. We put 2 or 3 of them in the trunk and drove around. So, I'm sure that, I'll put it out there now. I did stupid things. I can remember one time in Columbia, South Carolina, we had a kid. He was so wound up and pressed down behind the hatchback under the glass, he couldn't move, and he was squeezed under the glass, and we stopped for gas. And there was a black dude that walked up to us, and he had a cigarette. He was missing this tooth right here, and he had a cigarette shoved up in the middle of it. He had a fag right here in his gap, and he comes up and he looks and he sees that white boy all scrunched up in that back of that car, and he goes, how far that boy got to ride like that? And I was like, just a couple more miles. So there you go, Heaton. There are things we shouldn't know about me, but I'm gonna put it all out there.
I have a question about your friend with the Kodachrome with the camera, the Instamatic, the clock that he took the picture of. Was it by any chance hanging over the window of a women's bathroom?
No, this was like a big clock, like a centerpiece in this lobby. Back when people used to know how to tell time. Speaking of which, party foul.
I can tell time on digital.
Tell it what?
On the digital.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. Heaton?
I got nothing.
It's time for us to bid adieu to our friends and fans. Go to the Chad Prather Show. Go to Something's Off with Andrew Heaton. Check us out, our full-on podcast, and tune in again when we do another episode of Highballs with Heaton. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Hey, there's no privacy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to a little short episode of the Chad Prather Show podcast, where we talk about things Party Foul Steve doesn't know about history. Steve.
Why does it have to be about history?
It could be about anything. You don't know nothing.
Nothing. Zero.
He don't know nothing.
I'm over here crossing my fingers.
And we like to prove it. Okay.
I'm hoping I know
We're going to
something.
take you to recent history, 1945.
Wait, that's before I was born.
Doesn't matter. You're like my wife trying to, and I'm like, what song is that? I don't know. It's the Bee Gees. Well, that was before I was born. You should still know it.
The Bee Gees? No.
You don't know the Bee Gees?
No.
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a ladies' man, no time to talk.
Yeah, I know the song.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It's like,
you don't tell me you don't know Barry Gibb
all right.
and the Bee Gees. God, turn in your white man card. Look here, 1945.
Hey, 1945. Hang on. What was happening?
What countries made up the Allied powers that won World War II? Who were the big three?
The big three. The United States.
One.
It's got to be more. France.
No.
Oh, not Japan.
No.
Not Russia. I'm doing process of elimination. Not Mexico. They ain't helped with nothing. Canada. They sit it out too.
Well, they kind of in Australia. They sit things out. Who else? Let's go through here and see who sits things. Switzerland, it ain't them. They sit everything out.
Are you just going to nail, like, just mention every country on the planet that maybe wasn't involved with World War II?
I know.
And by the way, all the ones you've listed, we're pretty much part of it.
Well, they're allies, but they sit it out.
But who? Australia didn't sit it out. But
Okay.
who who are the big three at the end of World War II? Who are the Allied powers? America.
Yeah, that's America for one. I don't know who number 2 was.
All right, you've already messed up because Russia was one.
Oh, they helped us out?
They were our allies.
I thought they were
No.
the bad guys.
No, they became the bad guys. Damn it. And then the third was
It's probably Australia, isn't it?
no, the United Kingdom.
Oh.
Do you know who the leaders of those countries were?
No.
How do you not know who the leader of America was
In
the United
1945?
States?
Because
At
I
the
wasn't
end,
there.
You don't have to be there. Do you know who was the president of the United States at the end of World War II?
Truman.
No. He came after
Lincoln.
this person. No, Lincoln.
Like,
Lincoln. Did you know that Lincoln was inducted into the Wrestling Hall of Fame in 1992 because he fought before he was president, before he went into politics, he fought in over 300 boxing matches.
no, I missed that in history class
Yeah,
along with
exactly.
everything
That's
else.
before your time. Did you know that in ancient Egypt they used to rub honey on the citizens whenever the pharaoh was out in public so that the flies would stay away from the pharaoh?
No, I didn't
See
know
how
that.
fascinating history can be?
Yeah.
Now, who was the president of the United States at the end of World War II? He died right at the end of World War II.
He died.
Right after the whole deal was done, he died.
How'd he die?
He had polio.
Oh, he had polio, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
I need some help, Candace. Where you at?
Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Yeah, that's what I was gonna
What was his wife's name?
Roosevelt's. Why?
Eleanor. So, who was the leader of the UK, of Great Britain? Who was the prime minister?
Prince Diana. Oh, she died in a car crash. Not
In
her.
92.
Okay.
You're an idiot. 96, 97, not 92. So, Winston.
Churchill.
Okay.
I knew that.
Okay.
Not.
And who was the king of England at that time?
The king. They had a king then.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
What was his name? What was his
Something
royal
the third.
title?
Something the third.
We're just picking numbers.
I know that.
His name, his royal name was George. He had a daughter whose name, she's the queen now. Her name is
She's queen right now.
right now. See, you are alive right
Yeah,
now.
I
We're
am
just proving the fact that you don't know anything.
No, I do. I can picture her.
Elizabeth.
Okay.
She had a
Right.
daughter-in-law named Diana,
Oh, okay. So
who
I
was married
close.
to her son, whose name is
Charles.
okay.
I know who Prince Charles is.
Sure, you do. What's his two boys' names? William and Harry.
I was going to say that. I was going to say Leo.
So back to who was the leader of Russia at the end of World War II?
At the end of World War II, the leader of Russia.
Joseph.
Stalin.
Okay,
All right,
there you go.
good
The
deal.
big three. And where did they meet? Where did they come together to decide the fate of Nazi Germany and the rest of Europe in order to end World War II?
What does it start with? Give me a letter.
Why?
A Y?
Didn't help you at all, did it?
Not at all.
They met
Yosemite.
at Yalta.
Oh.
Yalta.
I was going to say Yosemite.
And it was called the Crimea Conference.
All right.
So, welcome. In 1945, World War II ended. Russia, the UK, and the United States of America came together at Yalta with what was called the Big Three, the Crimea Conference, and they decided the fate of post-World War II Germany and what would be happening. We rebuilt the nation of Germany because, again, back to the point of after World War I and the Treaty of Versailles being world police, we decided that it was the right and humanitarian thing to do to go back in and rebuild the countries that had been destroyed during World War II.
So we destroy them, rebuild them.
That's exactly
Yeah,
right.
no. Kill them all, let God sort them out.
Do you know what the phrase Carthaginian peace is?
Is this something I should know?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So the people of Carthage, whenever they would go in and destroy...
Is this like Carthage, Texas? Over
No, this is not Carthage, Texas. Do you know who the great Carthaginian leader was? He had to cross the Alps in order to conquer Rome. As a Greek, his name was Hannibal. Okay, so
only Hannibal I know is Lecter.
yeah, or from the A Team, right?
Oh yeah, Hannibal.
Yeah,
I got you. A Team.
Oh my! Carthaginian peace means when you conquer a people, that you plow under their lands, their fields, their cities, and you pour salt all over it. So
yeah, you erase them from the face of the earth.
Nothing
there is
will
no
ever
history.
grow. No, now he knows.
Yeah.
Now he knows. Okay, so there's your little history lesson about the Big Three after World War II from another episode of Party Foul. Don't know nothing. Hey, everybody, I know you've been looking forward to another segment where we drink highballs with Heaton, my friend Andrew Heaton.
Hello.
At Mighty Heaton on Twitter. Are you on Instagram?
Yeah.
Are you? Pull your microphone over to yourself, you drunk ass.
I am on Instagram. It's like I'm making my own coffee table book. It's beautiful.
Yeah?
Yeah, I like Instagram. Everybody's nice on Instagram. It's like mostly like puppies and women working out. Great.
There's a lot of women working out.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
There's girls fishing. And look, I've spent my entire life fishing. I don't want my beta suit wedged up my butt the whole time I'm trying to reel in a 400-pound marlin.
Your what wedged? Your betas?
My beta suit. My
Your
swim
beta
trunks.
suit? Okay.
You're from Oklahoma. You know what a bathing suit is, don't you?
Bathing suit.
Bathing
I'm sorry. Yeah,
suit.
okay.
Swim trunks.
I think you said beta suit, and I thought like that meant like your backup suit.
No, that's called a man's romper.
I went into Frasier mode, and I was like, well, you got your alpha suit and your beta suit, and then you get your delta suit. So
I just had a genius idea, and I would love to get feedback from the people who listen and watch. Don't you think that we should do a Highballs with Heaton segment wearing men's rompers? Right there, I just heard a disturbance in the force. I just heard women 35 to 65 years old, the Desperate Housewives set just screamed in unison, no!
What is a romper?
What's a romper? It's
Yeah.
that one-piece thing. You remember a couple of years ago, that was kind of the deal.
Like shorts or capri
Like it
pants?
was shorts, but it was all the way, it's one piece, all the way up to the short sleeves, and men were going around in their rompers.
Oh, I don't know.
Which I don't know how you get out of that in the bathroom stall and shimmy it down. But it's like coveralls, but with short pants and
I'd wear
short
that if I were in
sleeves.
space. That sounds like a jumpsuit to me, so that would make sense. But like walking around
If
now.
you had a tube, like if you're wearing a catheter,
Yeah.
you could just pee at will.
Yeah,
or,
great.
or one of them tubes. How do they poop in space?
They've got a suction.
Is that the deal? You just poop in the suit?
Okay, so this is the first thing we'll talk about today. There's a growing scientific consensus that we should go back to the moon to get the feces bags the astronauts left up there. Here's why. Bear with me. The reason that that's a decent idea is they've been up there now, 50 years?
Yeah.
And so we want to see what happens to bacteria living inside of these, living in a vacuum in a very harsh environment. So so originally the astronauts just pooped in a bag and then left. It was apparently very difficult. And they didn't like doing it. But we left it up there on the moon. There's just doggy bags laying up on the moon. We want to see what happened to the radiated feces of the astronauts.
Like, so there had to be some oxygen in the bag where the poop went.
Yeah.
I would think that the methane would burn up a lot of the oxygen. How much oxygen does bacteria need?
I don't know.
How much bacteria does Tang produce?
It's a probiotic, Tang.
Yeah.
But if let's say they open it up in a sterile environment, there's still bacteria there. That would indicate that life is actually very robust because it can live in a poop bag on the moon.
Well, now that the Mueller report has been released and Trump has been cleared of collusion and obstruction, then I think we go forward with Space Force, and I say we get America's poop back.
Okay, all right.
Let's go.
Let's build a moon base. I'm all in favor of that. Yeah.
Yeah, the doo-doo-knots. The Dookie Knots.
It's going really well. Candace left the room, and we immediately went to space poop.
Yes, guys go to toilet humor. They always do. I think where do you find this crap out? No pun
Somebody
intended.
sent it to me. Literally, somebody was like, "You'd probably enjoy this." And I was like, "That." Like they literally sent it to me the day before we had an episode on moon bases, and it didn't come up. So I'm really glad I got to bring it up here.
That is like fantastic, like fodder, like news that no one cares about. But I think that in and of itself, like I could justify that form of space travel. I could justify that. Let's go get the poop back.
Yeah.
Let's go get the poop back. And I guarantee you, whoever's idea that was, ladies, that's not the guy you want to date because he'll probably be one of those freaky guys that, no. I'll tell you some stories off air. Not about me, but about people I know. Creepy creepy stuff. But there's suction in the thing, right? They
yeah,
just
I think now they've got like kind of a reverse fan.
Yeah.
It's like a dentist suction cup,
blows it out.
except that you kind of like plug yourself into it and it just.
Yeah. It's party time, Mom. Hey, I remember who was it? John Glenn, when he was in space and he saw all these crystal particles that were glowing, that were floating past the spacecraft, and he couldn't figure out, like, what am I seeing here? And it was his frozen pea particles that were floating past.
Did he write like a poem about the majesty of space and all that stuff, and like how this has like changed his viewpoint about
Floyd.
how beautiful the universe is and all that kind of thing?
You actually hear that poem if you play Pink Floyd's "Dark Side of the Moon" backwards.
Oh yeah,
you'll hear it. Pea particles from hell straight from the sun, reflecting to my soul.
Yeah, my parents wouldn't let me listen to hard rock because they were afraid I'd hear John Glenn when I was a kid. Yeah, if I played
American Hero. If you play it backwards, that song's called "Dogs of War" is called American Hero. Let's pick a topic straight out of the head and go to work. This is where it gets suspenseful because I'm always scared he's going to come up with something like Pythagorean.
Oh, no, this one's great for what we've been talking about.
I've never done this, but I always want to say that like we should reserve the right to put it back in the head if it doesn't need to come out.
No, if anything, we are too sober for this one.
Oh, God.
What is real and what is just our perception of reality? That's great for where we're at.
All right, well, let me try to set this one up. Let me see if I could toss it up. So Shakespeare said, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know Shakespeare verbatim, but Shakespeare basically said in one of his plays, he said, there are far more things that we cannot see or feel, far more things that are in this universe than the things that we can see or feel. And so he basically was saying,
Can I drunkenly try and get that one?
Yeah, try.
Because I don't know Shakespeare to be. I think it's Horatio. There are more things. No, damn it. What is it?
Yeah,
there are
I
more
know.
things in dreams. Jennings, do you know this?
There are more things in heaven and on earth. There are more things in heaven and on earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, Horatio.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's it.
Horatio.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Jennings, I love you. Jennings.
I love you too.
Executive producer, editorial producer as well of the Something's Off with Andrew Heaton show. There's far more. So let's set it up with that because I'm of the idea. I believe that people are, and you and I have a friendly opposition on the idea of the metaphysical, the spiritual, the religious, whatever you want to call it. I feel like we are made up of body, soul, and spirit.
Okay.
I feel like that there's a trichotomy there of us. So I feel like your body is basically your mobile home that one day you'll move out of. I believe your soul is your mind, your will, and your volition, your ability to choose. And I believe that your spirit is that inner nature, that eternal thing about you that was in the heart of God from the beginning or from before the beginning and will live forever with God. Now, is that real? Is that made up? I think the average person who has a religious bent is going to lean towards that.
Well, I'll tell you what I find interesting about that is, so my background's Eastern Orthodoxy, we were talking about earlier, and they would actually concur with you. Because I think a lot of the time we now tend to say things like, I have a body, right? But if you go back to the early Christians, they would say, I am a body, and I am a soul, and I am a spirit. But they sort of viewed themselves as not really having like a balloon above a suspended organic meat sack, but like being a triune component of things. And I would today I no longer share that view, but it's interesting that you would kind of go to that. Yeah, I would. I'm more in the secular, atoms and infinity camp now, but chemicals and infinity. Where I'll say that I'm kind of softening though is I watched a documentary on dog cognition about 3 years ago, and it kind of blew my mind because it so like as of like where I'm at right now, and I don't like this place by the way, but at the moment I'm in this it's chemicals and infinity and that's it. There's no plan and anything. And I watched this video on dog cognition, and dogs have pretty bad short-term spatial memory.
Right.
They did an experiment where they put out dog bowls in a clock pattern, and they swabbed them all with meat, but there's only meat in one of them. So the dog would like run to one, no meat, run to the other one, no meat, run back to where it had been, no meat. And it would, like, whereas we would go one by one to do it in the most efficient pattern. They also don't tend to understand spatial relationships, which is why dogs will wrap around trees when they're on a leash. They understand that leash signifies walking. They don't really understand the connection between you and the leash and the tree, right? And I watched that, and I thought, if a dog could talk and you went, what is it like to have such a stunted view of reality? What is it like? I think the dog would go, what are you talking about? I see the universe exactly how it is. And then I went, wait a minute. What do I not know that's going on right now? There has to be a bunch of stuff. Like there's supposed to be 18 dimensions or whatever. Like I'm only aware of like maybe 4, I think. Like there's got to be a bunch of things going on. So there's a little bit of intellectual humility, I think, that has to go into that. There's got to be like maybe it turns out you can give people colds over the phone. I don't know. Or the other thing I thought about, like let's say like here's a mind experiment. This is a good like 3 drinks in mind experiment. Let's say that your mood today can actually affect you backwards in time, to where if you have a terrible day and that for some reason that gives you a headache 3 weeks past.
So like it's a time-space butterfly effect, but into the space-time continuum.
And I don't know how we'd ever figure that out because we can only really suss out things out based on this kind of narrow bandwidth of cause and effect, right? But if they ever invert, there's no way for us based on our current scientific method to actually figure that out.
So I think that we as humans, again, and you're talking about a dog's mind, and obviously our dimension is far deeper. Is the way our brain works? It works on far more dimensions than what we do because dogs are basically black-white. I mean, it's this way or that way. They don't have that cognizant.
Yeah, they're instinct. They don't have the neurofrontal cortex.
I mean, so again, people, B.F. Skinner wanted us to embrace behaviorism based off Pavlov's experiments with the dogs, where you ring the bell, the dog comes running because the dog knows it's going to be fed. And therefore, if there are certain stimuli for us, then we're going to respond perfectly to that stimuli because we've been conditioned over and over to do that again. But I don't embrace behaviorism because I think that there are other things that stimulate us and motivate us to do those things. With a dog, you can rub the clock with meat, the bowls with meat, and they're going to respond to that. But humans are a little bit different. So here's how we are as humans. I think that we see things on a timeline. For instance, we're here, we begin, we're there, we end, and there are all these significant things along the way. That's our perception of reality. That's what we think. But what if, speaking of clocks with meat bowls, what if God, again, to speak to where you come from philosophically and those theologically, that idea of God or what we know of a higher being, what if it's cyclical? What if it's cyclical like this? So you read something like the book of Revelation and you're like, oh, well, there's this timeline. Here, this happens and the trumpet blows and it ends. No. What if it's always happening? What if this big cycle is going on and the trumpet's been blowing and it's been blowing in the past, it's been blowing in the present, blowing in the future. And so now what if our lives are that way? So I don't feel actually too far off from what you just said. I think that could my bad mood affect my headache 3 weeks ago? Maybe not so much that, but if we are eternal beings, there's no reason to think that we can't have a reality that is far beyond what we see, feel, think, see, hear, and touch. And so we're in this ethereal thing that's going on that is this cosmic force around us that we have no concept of.
Well, I assume that's happening either way, because I assume even if it's a big undirected cosmic void, there's got to be stuff happening that I'm unaware of.
Yeah,
and I do think there is a level of if I can't fathom that the universe is simple enough for me to understand. That does not seem right to me. There's got to be stuff not happening. It may not be directed. It might be directed. I don't know. But like I read a metaphor the other day about a guy was discussing how like chances are pretty good that his gut fauna doesn't know when he's watching Netflix. I think that's probably pretty accurate. So, like, maybe I don't know what's going on. Maybe there's some big Netflix show or something going on. I don't know. I'm just doing my thing. I'm like, well, I got to get to work. I got to drive my car. Like, that's my equivalent.
Do you remember the end of Men in Black? Whenever the thing comes out, it comes all the way out. Here's I don't remember it exactly, but here's the Earth, here's our life, New York City, and then boom, it comes out. And there's the Earth, and then boom, and then all of a sudden we're just part of a marble where all these aliens are out there playing pool, or we're in some locker in a train station somewhere. Who knows, man? Who knows? I think that there is something inside of us where deep calls unto deep, and we are longing for answers and this, this desire to be eternal beings, and one day we shed this mobile home, this suitcase, if you will, and unpack all the stuff that's inside of us, and who knows?
No, I hope you're right.
Maybe we've been living the same 3 weeks for all of eternity, and we're still in the same bad mood. I mean, this is some shit you don't want to think about, but it's true.
Have you heard the theory that we're living in a simulation? Are you familiar with that?
Well, it's the Matrix.
Yeah.
Basically.
I read this fascinating story the other day where it was talking about how we don't presently have quantum computing, and I don't fully understand what quantum computing is, but my understanding now is
that like Trump playing 4D chess? Or a little deeper?
Yes. No, that is an exact 100% one-to-one ratio of the analogy that I have. No, it's like because right now you've got with binary computers, it's 1 or 0, right? With quantum computing, it can be 1 and 0 or 0 and 0. I don't, apparently, it's far more complicated.
But is that what becomes AI? Is that that type of thing?
Kind of like. Well, it's basically if you read a headline that says quantum computing has been invented, at that point, you can infer that the computer's way faster and has way more memory than what we have. And then the real headline you got to pay attention to. If you ever see a headline that says, replica of Earth made in simulation, with quantum computing, it wouldn't be difficult if you made a replica of Earth that you could plug into in VR and you couldn't tell the difference, right? You could make like 1,000 of those, and it wouldn't make a difference within quantum computing because you've got that amount of space and processing power. And at that point, if you're like, well, if there's 1,000 fake Earths and a real Earth, and there's just one real Earth, what's the probability that I'm in the real one? It's pretty low. Right? So if you ever read that headline, just assume that you're living in a simulation and have fun.
Well, and so you have movies that come out such as Ready Player One, which I like. That's not my language. I don't understand this, where these people plug into a game world and they go in, and there's been these different movies that have come out, everything from Total Recall to, going back to Schwarzenegger. I mean, and there's all these movies about what if we're plugged into some kind of system, and you look at these things. And the thing that worries me is that a reality, or is it even a perceived reality? It's that people are thinking this way and they want to pursue it. Like, what is so wrong with the reality of your life that you need to now exit that and live in a perceived reality that's not real? Mm-hmm. So now, if I'm a fat guy that sits on a couch and only wants to watch, reruns of Seinfeld and eat popcorn and leftover pizza, but I want to plug in my VR and I want to go into that world and be, a guy who's now having virtual sex with penthouse models. You see what I'm saying? It's the fact that we've gotten to a place where now we want to make that real.
Yeah, why not just where you're at? Yeah.
I want to buy a robot wife who'll come in and be my sex slave, and I'm happy to live with latex and lubrication for the rest of my life. That's the problem that I have, is that now we've exchanged the real for the perceived, and that's not love, that's not affection, it's not sex, it's not what we were designed for, and that's the thing. So again, to your point, it's one thing to say, well, these things are imagined, but the fact that these days we're pursuing them is scary to me. God aside, spiritualism aside, the fact that we as human beings are pursuing those things, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, you're a single man. How many robots you got?
You know what? As many as I can buy, as soon as I can get them.
I'm mortgaging my second one now.
Yeah, I'd take a robot wife real quick. I think there's something to there's something to trying to be present in the moment. Like I rather like Buddhism. I think Buddhism is a really cool philosophy, and trying to be in peace with and okay with the world you're in. I think a significant amount of suffering that we've got in this life is just people want stuff to stay how it is, and it doesn't. It changes. Yeah. And then another problem we've got is we have an idea of what the idealized version of life would be, and we don't have that. Like, to go back to dogs, so I volunteer the animal shelter here in Dallas, and like dogs don't have a sense of what if. They don't have that, right? So if you see like I've been walking this blind dog recently. The dog clearly is not thinking like, gosh, I wish I could see. It's just thrilled to be out on a walk.
Yeah, just walking. That's his reality.
Right. And then like, if I've not done this, but if you see like a dog in a wheelchair, they're thrilled they've got a wheelchair. They're really happy because they're not trying to project that like, oh, if only I had type of thing. So I'd say escapism is probably bad and harmful for you. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, man, we can sit here and talk about this all day long. We really could, because you brought up a word. You said the word philosophy. Like you said Buddhism. I like that as a philosophy. Well, as a philosophy, it's great. Like this idea that I can be one with the universe, that cockroach that runs across the floor might be my Aunt Susie. I don't want to step on that cockroach because, but again, it's a philosophy where people in India for years have been starving because they won't kill the rats that eat all the grain on the trains. And so now they're starving because they're not going to kill the rats and they won't kill the cows because, again, that might be Aunt Susie. So because, again, it's all one with the universe. So that's my reality versus perceived reality. As a philosophy, it's great until that philosophy falls in on itself. So it's one of those perceived things.
Well, to clarify, I think most of India is Hindu. There is Buddhism, right?
Well, and Hindu. Well, again, and you're right. I jumped tracks on that because that is Hinduism, which Hinduism is that's an element. That's a whole other philosophy. You're right, exactly on that.
But with Buddhism, I mean, where I split on Buddhism is I don't buy the metaphysical elements of it, right? So I've been to a bunch of Buddhist classes.
You just want to be fat and happy.
Yes, that sounds great.
I'll
take the happy. I don't even care.
Buddhist robot wife.
Yeah, Buddhist robot wife sounds great.
You want her to be fat and sassy.
Yeah, all this.
I just want to read the Siddhartha.
No, I think
that's Hindu too.
I think that I do. I think they're onto something with life is stressful, and you can avoid the stress by kind of letting things go and not fixating on things that are going to change anyway. I think there's something to that, but I view it more as like a psychological practice. Yeah. When you get into all that stuff about past lives and things like that, I think that's kind of a red herring. I almost think it's like if you were really depressed right now and you really got into genealogy, it's like deal with the thing that's bothering you, right? So you make a point. If the metaphysical side of it becomes this kind of alternate reality for you, I don't think that's helpful. But the basic tools of it, I think, are really good.
All right, there you go. Y'all go read the Bhagavad Gita. That's Hindu too. I'm on a Hindu. See, that's the thing about being Buddhist.
You don't like Hindus. What's the thing?
Like if you're Buddhist, you don't even have to read books. You just don't even have to read books. You just be fat and sassy, fat and happy. I know. Shave your head, be fat and happy, and just every now and then you can ring a bell.
It'd be funny if in subsequent episodes we just didn't mention the fact, but I came in a big saffron robe,
not in this
and then
studio.
I've got I've shaved my head, that kind of thing. Well, the shaving the head thing might work.
That's better than the freaking man romper we were talking about earlier.
Yes, agreed.
I was on a plane the other day and the guy was reading the Bhagavad Gita, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm like, who reads this? Who reads this stuff? Here's a white dude in a ponytail.
You know what? I'm going to say, if you're looking for fun mythology, like for me being the secular perspective, if you don't buy any of it, it's got a lot of cool stuff in it. There's a monkey god. There's like
elephants. There's people with a lot of arms and Medusa.
It's pretty colorful.
I think Medusa makes a cameo.
Yeah.
Athena. If they get into a fight, that's funny. All right. Well, hey, we're gonna go have another drink. Something's off with Andrew Heaton at Mighty Heaton on Twitter and on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Things you find out.
Come check out the coffee table book.
I defy everyone out there. Have you a big old drink. Get you some whiskey poops, whatever you want to call them. Did you know that your body, you don't pee out alcohol? You don't pee out alcohol. You pee out all the liquids. But alcohol, that's what your liver cannot filter alcohol. It has to become solid waste. Jeez. Which two things, there's two implications of that. One, that's why you get the whiskey. And two, that's why a drunkenness sneaks up on you. Because it has to get to your colon. Because it gets there almost as a solid matter. And that is where your system most absorbs the alcohol. And that, folks, is why you should be watching Highballs with Heaton.